Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview, and today I'm joined by Robin Purdie, and we're going to begin with a brief recap of last weekend. In the Premiership, Hawick beat Edinburgh Accies, Selkirk lost at home to Mar, and Jed Forest got a try bonus but lost away at Musselburgh. In National 1, Melrose were beaten 69-34 by Ayr in a 103-point extravaganza. In National 2, Peebles beat Aberdeen Grammar, but Berwick threw away a huge lead to lose at Currie. In East League 1, Langholm got an excellent win against high-flying Haddington. Duns were beaten by Dunbar. In East League 2, Linden were edged out by Christophin, and in East League 3, Galloway M smashed Edinburgh University Medics by 96 points to 7. So Robin, starting in at the Premiership, and the Hawick bus cruises on.
It does, doesn't it? Another good win for them last Saturday against the Accies, another bonus point as well. So yeah, Hawick, since that blip on the road at Mar, which seems like an eternity ago, they've been, as you'd expect them to be. They've reacted brilliantly to that, and they've won every game since. Well,
the weather stopped Kelso, Gala and Hawick Quins from playing, but Selkirk and Jed Forest both suffering heavy defeats.
Yes, I was slightly surprised at the scoreline at Selkirk there. I said in the show last week that had just a wee bit of a look of a banana skin about it for Mar, because Selkirk had upped the ante a bit in recent weeks, but yeah, Mar have been going about their business as well. They've only lost a couple of games. I think they've lost 3 games this season, but they're sitting comfortably in second in the table. They're eyeing now a home semi-final, and yeah, Selkirk just back to the drawing board a bit after that reversal.
And nothing surprises us more than rugby results. We've seen some incredible turnarounds, some banana skins, as you said, and some big wins, but also some surprises, losses. And as you say, Mar beating Selkirk at Philip Hall, with 50 points on the board is, well, you say, another surprise.
Yeah, I thought it would be closer than that, to be honest. And I thought Selkirk had a squeak of a chance. Mar are riding high in the table, and we always say the table doesn't lie. But no, I was slightly surprised by the result there. But then again, my predictions have been absolutely horrendous over recent weeks. So what do I know?
A word about the Ayr Melrose game then in National 1. Great start for Melrose, went 12-0 up, and then all of a sudden 10 tries for Ayr, and it's basically all over.
Yeah, and I think there was a seminal moment in that match for me, 12, 15 minutes in, whenever it was. As you say, Melrose 12-0 to the good, and they had a penalty that for all the world was screaming to be kicked into the corner and go for a try almost identical to what they did with their first try. They scored of a line out 5 metres out. Or option 2 was go for another 3 points for the post. Option 99 was take a tap and go, and that's what they did. Ayr, a couple of phases later, had the ball up the park, scored the try, right back in it, and that for me was a seminal moment. And Melrose shot themselves in the foot a wee bit. It was always going to be a tough task down there, but you feel if they'd gone from 12 to 15 or 12 to 17, maybe even 19, who knows, different complexion to it, and the pressure was then on Ayr, but Ayr got right back into it, and then, let's be honest, they, particularly in the forwards, they blew Melrose away.
We thought that Berwick were actually going to be getting 2 wins in a row. They were, I think, something like 31-5 up or 31-10 up at Currie, going really well. All of a sudden, Currie do one of their great escapes, second time this season, 40 unanswered points, and they cruised to victory 50 points to 31. So Berwick will see that as a big 4 points lost there.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I'm not sure what's happened there to go from such a commanding lead to losing the game. Currie must have got their act together, obviously. But yeah, that's one that slipped away from Berwick and Currie. If Berwick had put Currie away, they'd have leapfrogged them in the table, probably above Stumel as well, and just had that bit more daylight between themselves and Aberdeen. But yeah, Currie now have got that bit of daylight, like I say, between themselves and the bottom, and it looks a wee bit like a kind of 3-horse thing at the bottom there now between Aberdeen, Berwick and Stumel. Now
East League, of course, we were talking last week about Langholm and how it was an uphill struggle because Haddington were one of the 2 top teams over there, but Langholm have beaten Haddington. That's a great result for them.
Brilliant win, absolutely tremendous win down there at Millentown for Langholm. We as you say, we thought that there was going to be potentially be a struggle given where Haddington were in the table, but Langholm look like they've found their feet now in that division. A wee bit of a slow start, but they've racked up a few wins, and yeah, they should be looking up the table now rather than down. There's enough daylight between them and Royal High at the bottom. They're not going to be any danger now.
Well, one of the most successful East League 3 sides is Edinburgh University Medics, but somehow they lost 96 points to 7. We don't know what the circumstances are, but to ship almost 100 points to a team who haven't won all season, again, it goes back to what we were saying, some strange results.
Oh, the strangest of all results last weekend. I mean, what on earth has happened there?
Have they drafted in a few internationals?
Oh, as I say, Gala didn't have a game. Was there a few Gala first team boys running out for the YM? Who knows? But yeah, great to see Gala YM get off the bottom of the table and get into the positive points tally.
Let's turn our attention to this weekend's games, and of course with the freezing conditions, many of these may be postponed, might even be all of them. So let me point you in the direction of our Twitter or X account, @BordersScores, all one word. From tomorrow morning it will kick into action to let you know which games are off, but today we'll talk about the games as if they are going to go ahead, and we'll start with Hawick, who go to Maleny Park to take on Currie. That's first versus third, and here's Hawick coach Matty Douglas.
We're excited at the challenge. We look forward to these sort of games. So we're in a good place. Hector Patterson's injured this week. We'd only have him available for this week anyways, going forward, just through Edinburgh and also the 20s. So he misses out, and it gives an opportunity to somebody to fill that jersey. And same again, Fraser Rennick hopefully be back next week from injury. So there's a lot of positions in our team that are getting congested, and boys are starting to fight for it. So look, really happy, and probably a couple of words for boys last week to be able to bring Eli Hamilton off the bench and give him his debut. It's always great to bring players through the Hawick youth system and give them an opportunity on Saturday, and again to Connor Sutherland making 50 appearances at the age he's at, and Lee Armstrong making 200 to follow in Stuart Graham and Kirk the week before with 100 and 200 appearances for Hawick. This is what we build our team around. So look, really happy, and congratulations to the boys, and we'll look forward to Currie on Saturday. Now,
we saw Owen Gray making his debut recently. Now Eli Hamilton is about to do the same. I think that's fantastic, isn't it? Because I mean, these kids were literally playing for Hawick youth only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they look like they're managing the squad really well over at Hawick. They're drip feeding these in, and obviously the force are going really well. Hawick Rugby is just in a really good place, it would seem, from the outside looking in. Big game this weekend. However, for me, and the powers that be and the coaches at Hawick will, they'll say every game at a time and all that kind of stuff, but this is the game. Win this, and not only is it home semi-final, it's top of the table, which means you win your home semi-final, final at home. Well, they've still got Musselburgh to go to as well, but for me, this game is the big one. Win this, and it's downhill from there.
Obviously, if it goes ahead, conditions going to play a big part there. A bit of a leveller, certainly down at Maleny Park.
Yeah, I think so. Two big, strong packs of forwards that potentially will knock lumps out of each other on a day like this. It's a hard one to call. I'm on record as saying this season that I believe Currie not to be quite as strong as they were last season, but I'm going to roll back a wee bit on that in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know if it's because Charlie Brett is back in the fold, but they look like they're in just a slightly better place. But right off Hawick at your peril, and we know what they did at Maleny last season, and Connor Sutherland, they mentioned him there in his 50 games. He, for me, is probably the best defensive player I've seen this season. That game against Mar 2 or 3 weeks ago at home, he was ridiculous. He was not only, talk about guys making 20 tackles and all this kind of stuff, but some of them, they're all pretty passive and they're not dominant. He was absolutely smashing boys all over the place in that game. So, yeah, with the likes of him and, just the strength of the Hawick squad in general, you like to think they could nick it, but it's going to be a tough challenge.
Well, Jed Forrester at home to Herrett's Blues at Riverside Park, still without a win, but 5 tries last week at Musselburgh. Here's coach David Grieve.
On Saturday, we were up at Musselburgh. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I had a touch of the man flu. Just kind of going by the score and watching the updates, it was like it's a familiar pattern. Conceding an early try, then score a try back, then concede 2 or 3 more tries, then score a try back. Then next thing we know, we've conceded 2 or 3 more tries, and the kind of game's out of reach. And then we have a bit of a comeback, which put a bit of respectability in the score. It's kind of been the theme all season. This week we've got Heriots at home, which again, we've got to have a bit of positivity. We've got to really attack them and see what happens. It's a winnable game for us.
As he said, there seems to be this pattern for all their matches all season.
Oh yeah, it's a familiar tale for Jed, unfortunately. Must have done pretty well to get the bonus point up there, but they shipped 50 plus points again to take their points against tally to 614. Unfortunately, will this be the one where the duck is finally broken? That will remain to be seen. But yeah, Heriots, again, a team that for me are a lot better than they were last season. I'd have been a lot more comfortable, or a lot more confident rather, in Jed breaking the duck against Heriots last season than it would be now.
Well, also in the Premiership tomorrow, Selkirk go in search of the Bill McLaren Shield and, of course, points against Musselburgh as well. Here's head coach of Selkirk, Sesh Henderson.
This week against Musselburgh, when they're at home, they seem to be beating most teams, so we need to be at our best for 80 minutes. That message I got across last night at training. It will be again tomorrow. The boys are eager now just to try and get back on that pitch and just try and put an 80 minutes performance in. It's needed now. Just with the disappointment for last week, the boys have what a reaction in their performance, and that's what we're looking for on Saturday against Musselburgh, who they'll be picking us for a good win to keep them in the top 4 contention. But we're at our mindset is that we want to get back on the winning ways and getting points. We want to try and get points for the next 2 games before the Christmas break, and it's going to be a difficult task, but we're confident we can go up, and if we play for 80 minutes, stay in the game, then we'll come away with something.
Well, Musselburgh, the team certainly have got kind of more to lose in that match. They're obviously going for the playoffs. Selkirk pretty much safe.
Yeah, Musselburgh got a lot to play for this weekend. They're 3 points ahead of Edinburgh Accies in 4th, and if you'd said to me at the start of the season that Musselburgh come this point in the campaign will be sat in 4th, then I'd have given you long odds. But that's testament to how far they've come. They escaped relegation by the skin of their teeth, and they've improved markedly, and fair play to them. There's 3 points of a gap there. So yeah, they'll be looking to win. They're strong at home, as Sesh said, and if they can win with a bonus point, that really solidifies their position in the top 4. So yeah, they have just probably a wee bit more to play for on paper, at least, than Selkirk. But yeah, Selkirk, that was a blip for them last week in comparison to the 2 previous weeks, and maybe even the week before that. But yeah, they went really well up at Maleny in the not too distant past, and if they, if they're on it, then they can cause a surprise up there.
Lots of this hot and cold performances.
Yeah, seems to be, and I think just a bit of consistency, and that's what it looked like. It sort of got back to. They'd got that bit of consistency. Good performance at Currie, couple of good bonus point wins prior to that setback at home last weekend.
Well, no game for Kelso last week due to the weather. They're due to play Mar tomorrow, and Director of Rugby at Kelso is Neil Hinnigan.
Obviously, Mar are going really well at the moment, second in the league, and trying to chase down Hawick for that top spot. So they're going to come down with a fair, clear game plan to get the probably 5 points, maybe even the 4, depending on where they see us at the moment. But I mean, last week at Selkirk, they were in total control, and I watched a bit of the game, and Mar were very, very good. So we're going to have to be working really, really hard, especially off the ball, just to, again, as I keep saying, you've got to stay in the game long enough to be able to win it. We did that against Hawick last time out. We stayed in it long enough to try and win the game, and then we just came up short. But that's where the sort of level we're going to need to be at against Mar. Team selection wise, it'll be a fairly settled squad for what we've been fielding lately. So no real surprises there.
Interesting one here, because Mar trying to keep the pressure on Hawick, of course, at the top of the table. They did well last week at Selkirk. Jed Forrest caused them a few problems, but can they get past a strong Kelso side? I
really like the look of this game. Currie Hawick on paper's the big one, but this one's got a great look about it as well. Similar to an extent to Mar v Selkirk last week. Talk about banana skins, and this from a Mar perspective, this will be a tough game. This will be an awful lot tougher than when they played Kelso up at Fullerton there. So can Kelso turn Mar over and cause a bit of an upset and certainly do Hawick a bit of a favour at the top of the table? Yes, I think they can. It's not going to be easy, of course. That was a brilliant win for Mar at Philiphaugh last weekend, and they'll be coming into this Fuller conference, and rightly so. But yeah, Kelso, different proposition at home. And yeah, I think this one could be a real ding dong. Both teams could get points out of this.
Well, let's look at National 1. Our commentary match will be Gala versus Melrose at Netherdale. Always a good match between these two. Literally anything can happen. We're going to hear from Melrose coach Ian Chisholm in a minute, but first the words of Gala captain Angus Dunn.
Certainly this year, which has been ups and downs, but last year it's the same. We are finding a bit of form. I think the boys need a bit of confidence, which it has come from the wins, and you can see it in training and everything that it's progressing. So there's a massive amount of youth, and it's brilliant for the club, as long as you can keep hold of these guys, keep developing them. There's a massive future for us, and as a team, the one that we've got, to build, and the new coaches again this season. First half of the season, they had a hard job because it was kind of us ourselves were letting everyone down as a squad, but we're starting to click, and they've always been positive and always been driving us. So no, it's brilliant to have them as new coaches as well. I think it's a more exciting game now. I don't know whether the defence is maybe poorer, that's it, but the attacks are certainly, good fast flying rugby. You can't complain, and it's a good spectacle to watch. Just kind of confidence is key here, and knowing that we can do it because we did it last season. And these high scoring affairs, it does come down to a bit your defence. Your defence will win the games. So as long as we can match them up front and everything, I can't see why we can't turn the tables.
We scored 35 points on Saturday, and it's not very often that's going to happen up at Millbrae. It's not very often that's going to happen. You get beat. So look, we're really chuffed with what we're doing with the ball. It's just without the ball, and it's not system errors. It's individual errors within the system and then going away for system as well. If we have a plan, can we be disciplined enough to stick to it tactically? Can we be disciplined enough to stick to it emotionally, physically? The tackle height was a big issue on Saturday. 8 penalties we conceded for high tackles, and look, at the time you're always going to, you always think you're hard done by. But looking back at the game, they were bang on. All the high tackle penalties were bang on. The referee had a pretty good game, and it's us that we need to look at. We need to look at ourselves. We need to look at what we're going to do to fix that, and I don't think there's a better game opportunity for us, especially away from home. So it might just be a couple of miles down the road, but there's a few selection headaches to consider this weekend. There'll be a few boys that drop out the squad. I think there's always going to be when you ship 69 points. So there will be boys drop out of the squad, and there are boys that were coming back from injury that we introduced off the bench. And those boys went pretty well. Lachlan Gary carried the ball 21 times, which was over double what anybody else did on Saturday, and we're starting to see some real confidence in Lachlan's play. This is a guy that's had 4 shoulder operations over the last 4 or 5 years, and he's played a lot more rugby this season than he has over those 4 or 5 years. So we're pretty chuffed with how Lachlan's tracking, and we're positive that he's going to move on to bigger and better things. Hopefully not before this season ends. But yeah, we've got Rudy Denton back in the mix. We've got Scott Clark back in the mix for contention for selection. Elliot Ruthven, Will Ferry, Bruce Colvin's available this weekend, and we've got the likes of Ben McLean, Sandy Fairbairn, Jake Fairley, all available for us this weekend. So look, yeah, we understand where we are. Other results going our way the week before has meant that we're still in the mix, which is absolutely insane considering we've been pumped 60 points twice this season. So look, we're excited about this weekend. We're excited to get to Netherdale. It's always a good hostile environment, and look, these are the sort of games that you play and you coach and you're involved in rugby for. So yeah, look, really looking forward to it.
Well, last time out, 53-31 to Melrose, but we have seen with these games that it sometimes goes the other way in the second match.
Yeah, they say that form goes out the window in a derby game, and Melrose will be hoping that's the case this weekend, because Gala, other than Ayr, as I mentioned last week, Gala are the form horse in this division. 4 wins on the trot. Yeah, at the moment, and Melrose are anything but, let's be honest. Ian mentioned some of the guys to come back in this weekend. Will Ferry made a difference when he came on. He is a good player, but he's got a bit of grunt about him as well, and Melrose need all the guys up front anyway. They need all the guys with grunt that they can get at the moment, so he's one of them. Ian's right, Gaddy played really well. I thought he was the shining light.
Yep, I agree with that.
For Melrose. But yeah, Bruce Colvin and Ben McLean coming back will give them that bit more experience as well. But yeah, Melrose, you can't quite put their finger on it from the outside looking in, but they're shipping points. They've won 6, they've lost 6. It's very, very un-Melrose-like, and there's just something not quite right there at the moment. Gala, as you mentioned, going really well after what was a slow start to the season by their usual standards. Angus Dunn, for me, he's a brilliant player, and you look at the likes of the other back rowers there as well. Liam Scott's the converted Tim McCavanagh, who does a great job in there now, and this has got the makings of a great game between two, on paper at least, very evenly matched teams.
That's our commentary game, of course, tomorrow. We're looking forward to that. Let's just hope that the ice melts in time for the 3 o'clock kick-off. International 2, Berwick are off to league leaders Falkirk, while Peebles go to Stirling County. Here's head coach at Peebles, Graham Patterson.
We'll welcome a few boys back. Matty Carrier, a big influence obviously for us up front, and overall as a squad as well, in terms of his leadership and the way he can conduct himself and helps others around him. He's back after being away last week. Finlay Collins and Kenny Clyde and Rowan McKeever also come back into the reckoning as well. Unfortunately, Ross Brown's away, so we're down 1, but we've gained 3 or 4 other boys back, either through availability from work commitments or injury as well. So we're looking fairly healthy in terms of squad to pick from. There won't be a huge amount of changes as you would expect from a side that's going fairly well. However, the challenges that the guys are having internally is great at training, seeing them going up against each other. And like I said before, the impact of the bench really does add to that challenge as well. So having a settled squad is really good, and we'll look forward to the challenge in Stirling on Saturday.
Well, on paper, the 5 teams at the top half of the table should all get wins. They're all playing the teams in the bottom half, but of course, as we've discovered this season, that might not happen.
Let's make no predictions and let's get left with no egg on our face like previous weeks. But no, as I've said before, I've been really impressed the times I've seen Peebles this season. They are very much in the shake-up at the top of what has become this season's most exciting division, I would suggest. There's 3 teams and you can throw a blanket over them. Great to hear that Matty Carrier's back. Finlay Collins, really like him as a player as well. The form book would suggest that they'll go up to Stirling County and win. Who would have said that 10 years ago? But Super 6 is finished. Will there be some guys that have had enough of Super 6 now and go back to club team? Who knows? One of those where you turn up at the ground and you just never know. But you'd like to think that Peebles can get the job done and remain right in the hunt for this division. And
a word about Berwick, they go to the table toppers Falkirk, which is going to be very difficult for them. But Falkirk's only defeats this season have in fact been at home.
Yeah, journeys, it seems every single week, lengthy journeys for Berwick. It's a tough looking one. Let's be honest. Falkirk are top of the table. They're top of the table for a reason. I think if Berwick are looking at the rest of the fixture card for the remainder of this season, this is probably not one that they've put an asterisk next to. It's the Stu Mells and the Aberdeens and the Kirkcaldies and Stirling to some extent that they need to be looking at. But Berwick will go up there and they'll give it a crack, and they'll be looking for a reaction after a disappointing outcome from where they were last week.
Well, let's look at East League 1. Langholm are on the road at Linlithgow with a lot of confidence following their win last week. Here's head coach Craig Hislop.
So last Saturday we played Hawick down at Milton. We played them earlier in the season up at their patch, and we went away a scratch team and we took a fairly hefty defeat. So we're looking to get a bit of revenge. Started well, scoring a try through Billy Donaldson, and then a penalty was kicked by our captain Nathan Smith. Went at half time 8-0 ahead, feeling fairly confident. In the second half, Hawick scored an early try to bring it back to 8-7, and then they kicked the penalty to go ahead on 64 minutes. The lads had worked hard during the game, and we managed to pull one out of the bag again in the 78th minute. A chip over the top by Billy Donaldson, and our captain Nathan Smith won the chase, and Billy kicked the conversion to give us a 15-10 lead, which we held on for the remaining minutes. It's really pleasing for the boys to pull off a win against the team in second place. This week we're going face top of the table on Lithgow up the road. Hopefully it's on with the weather forecast. and we're looking to build on what was 3 wins in a row.
So 2 tough games in a row for them. They've come through the first one. This is going to obviously be harder. Linlithgow at the top of the table. But with Langholm, I get the feeling that they've obviously newly promoted into the higher league, the East League One. They're kind of feeling their way. They're getting a couple of really good results, a few not so. But for me, they're feeling their way in this league, ready to really put in a big campaign next year and maybe get back to National Rugby again, which obviously is what they're looking for.
Yeah, I fully agree. They've really picked up in recent weeks. Doesn't get any tougher than going to the league leaders though. Played 10-1, 10-8, try bonus points. So can Langholm be the first team to upset the Linlithgow apple cart this season? Interesting to hear Bailey Donaldson's name mentioned there. That obviously is if he's back playing a bit at Langholm, then that's obviously a big fillip. And it's just really great to hear Nathan Smith's name mentioned as well. It was desperately disappointing for him to miss the clinching. He picked up an injury in the league clinching week, if you like, before they played Dalkeith, I think it was, and he was on crutches that day, which was a real shame. So great to hear that he's back, because he's a really good player as well.
Tomorrow, Linden are at home to Penicuik. Now that one's at the 3G, so there's a possibility of that going ahead, but as we've discussed many a time, 3G doesn't mean all weather. If it goes under -2, then 3G pitches cannot handle it. So again, check that one out. Linden at home to Penicuik. We can hear though from Linden's Gary Alexander.
We played Penicuik up there early season, lost 28-24, so that was quite narrow. Half time we were in the lead, and Penicuik beat Kirstoff in just 13-11 a fortnight ago, so there's not much between the teams based on these results. So even though Penicuik are top of the league with just 1 defeat so far this season, we would love to make it too. Where we're at with team wise, not too sure. We picked up some knocks last week. Matthew Mallon was missing, hopefully we'll have him back. However, as I say, we've got a few knocks. Matty Huggin was the most serious, went off with a nasty looking leg injury, and he's been in fantastic form this season, so he'll be a big miss. But as I say, we'll be gunning for a win this week at the Volunteer.
Well, finally into East League 3, the derby between Earlston and Gala YM. Earlston still top of the table, going for promotion, but they'll have certainly had raised eyebrows, let's say, after that 96-7 win that the YM put on the Medics. Here's head coach Cammy Hill.
Obviously, we're looking forward to this one, as it's starting to get to the really interesting part of the season, where every game's a must-win, just to make sure we can keep challenging for the title come January. Gala YM and Edinburgh Northern to get through first before we start worrying about what it could be in January against Trinity Accies, but going with the attitude that everything's a must-win, and I think we'll be fine. Obviously, Gala YM, they got their first win of the season last weekend, so they're going to be coming in full of confidence and looking at causing upset, looking like it's going to be a really testy game. Training over the last few weeks has been really good. So hopefully the intensity that we've shown there and the skill set we can bring into this weekend's game. There was always going to be a worry when you're getting weeks off that numbers are going to drop, and obviously we're having no game last weekend. We managed to send 3 lads down to help Peebles at Kelso, which was really good just to give them a bit of game time, and they fared up really well. I was very impressed with their performance. On to squad, this week we welcome back 4 or 5 lads who we didn't play against Inverleith that just needed rested, needed a couple of weeks off to give some sort of fringe players a bit of game time. But obviously this week we're going in pretty much at full strength. Aaron Patterson being the only one unavailable due to a concussion suffered a few weeks ago. We're really hoping the weather holds out and we can get this game played.
Well, I lied to you because I said they're top of the table. They're actually not, because they're on 38 points, the same as Trinity Accies. But Trinity Accies are ahead on points difference by just 4 points. That's how close it is. And just behind them, Edinburgh Northern, with a game in hand on 33. So if they win that with a try bonus, they've got all 3 at 38 points.
Yeah, Earlston have just dropped down into second now, as you mentioned, only by 4 points from a points difference point of view. And yeah, big derby this weekend. If it goes ahead, Earlston v Gala YM. You'd have said prior to last weekend that game, given the table, is an absolute foregone conclusion. Then Gala YM go and stick 90 odd points on the Medics. So
there must have been an emergency, and I think they're all called away. That's probably what's happened there.
Yeah, they possibly had a weaker team than they had against Hawick Quins in that final that time. So yeah, be interesting to see what happens there. If the YM have a similar squad to what they had last weekend, then it could be a tasty one.
It certainly could. Well, if the weather doesn't scupper everything, we'll be live on Rugby Radio from 1:30 tomorrow, coming to you from Netherdale with full commentary of Gala against Melrose in National League One. We'll have television highlights of that game on Sunday, and our new Scottish Club Rugby podcast, episode 14, is now available, taking a look at the club scene in Scotland. But that's it for tonight from Robin and me. Bye for now.